Learn more at cox.com/value. Must have at least 500 megabits per second speeds and Cox Unlimited mobile. Taxes and fees excluded from price guarantee. Mobile data speeds reduced after 20 gigs usage per month.
Summer's on deck. It's time to get your outdoor entertainment space ready for barbecues, pool parties, and celebrations with family and friends. And Dixie-Line's the place for big savings.
Get a Dixie-Line $200 gift card with your purchase of Trex, AZEK, or TimberTech composite or cap PVC decking. Details in this month's Dixie-Line mailer.
Eliminate your outdoor space with a 20-foot LED commercial-grade string light set from Fight. On sale for $40.
Backyard lounging is made easy on new seasonal trends patio furniture from Dixie-Line with sets that are in stock and on sale. The May Makita Tool Blitz events will have deals you don't want to miss. See monthly mailer or Dixieline.com for dates and locations.
Thinking about new windows? Attend the May 17th Milgard Retrofit Window Seminar at Dixie-Line La Mesa and learn from the experts about what type of windows to order for your home improvement project. Dixie-Line Lumber and Home Centers. Fix it, build it, and enjoy it.
Hey, it's Ben Higgins here to discuss a serious topic I spent way too much time avoiding. As a parent, I know I want my family to be taken care of when I'm gone, and I just assume things would be obvious if the unthinkable happened. But did you know that if you pass away without a will, the state decides what happens to all your assets and even your kids? But that's all avoidable thanks to Trust and Will's easy online process to nominate guardians and plan your legacy. Don't leave your most important decisions to the state. Visit trustandwill.com and create a plan. Use code FAN for a 20% discount at trustandwill.com.
Hey parents, Coach Kurt here from Frozen Ropes. If your child is 6 to 12 years old and you're seeking a fun alternative to travel ball, our baseball summer league runs June 16th through August 17th. Summer league includes 8 practices focusing on hitting, pitching, fielding, speed, and agility. 8 games on local fields. We feature 4 divisions. Spaces are limited. Call 858-485-9399, 858-485-9399, or go to SanDiegoFrozenRopes.com. Make this a Frozen Rope summer.
This is the story of the one. As a lineman, he does whatever it takes to keep the power on in his community. And he wants a partner like Grainger who does the same. Grainger offers the professional-grade products he needs, from voltage detectors to harnesses to hard hats, plus fast, dependable delivery, so he can rise to every challenge. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Well, good morning, kiddo. I love that you're home from college. I've missed you.
Still taking your nature-made vitamins?
Every day. A multivitamin and a probiotic. You better be taking yours.
Still looking out for me, Mom.
I'll never stop.
Made to care for you every day. Nature Made, the #1 pharmacist-recommended vitamin and supplement brand. Find us in the vitamin aisle, based on a survey of pharmacists who recommend branded vitamins and supplements.
You, my friend, will always know more about the Padres than any of your friends if you follow San Diego's #1 sports station on Facebook and Instagram at 97.3 The Fan.
This guy knows what I'm talking about. You got me.
KWFN and KWFN HD1 San Diego.
This is you, Lars, from the San Diego Padres.
You can hear the you. The Padres play here on San Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan, and Odyssey Sports Station. Listen up, Friar Faithful. 97.3 The Fan's Padres Roundtable is on the air. Unbelievable! It's time to discuss everything going on with the Padres. The 97.3 The Fan crew is here for the most in-depth discussion on the Friars in our weekly Padres Roundtable, delivered by San Diego Roundtable Pizza. And now, here's your host, Ben Higgins.
1 week ago, I was teeing off in my member guest golf tournament. First match at 10 o'clock, but glad to be back and glad to have the pizza again. Thanks to Roundtable Pizza, sponsor of our weekly San Diego Padres 97.3 The Fan Roundtable. Got the crew here today to talk Padres baseball. Chris, though, I wanted to thank you first for filling in as the host last week.
I was hoping that this week, since you're here, I would get to tee off in golf right now, but I guess that didn't happen.
No, we've got Chris Ello, Braden Surprenant, Paul Reindl, Stephen Woods, and Matt Skraby with you for the next commercial-free hour talking Padres baseball. But I will start with a confession. In that I was on vacation and playing golf. I did not go back and listen to the roundtable last week. But what was the tenor of the conversation like last week with the Padres, the only really week of the season that they struggled. Now, they hadn't gotten swept by the Tampa Bay Rays as of Thursday, but the cracks were showing because of all the injuries. How panicked were you people, Matt?
I can actually take
week?
this because I think Chris was just trying to highlight some of the numbers that were starting to trend downwards instead of where they were. So it wasn't more of doom and gloom. It was more of, are we worried about these trends that are happening right now? And the answer before they got swept by the Rays was, no, we're not worried. But I think, we'll talk about it today. I don't think we're worried today either. So
it's really weird because, you have two completely different series. The Rays series that would be real cause for concern, lack of offense, everything that you kind of were worried about. And then the last two games against the Giants, which I think put our minds at ease, Woods, about where the San Diego Padres are now. How much more are you at ease after those last two games?
It's good to be 5-0 in the West. No question. There's no question about it. And I mentioned on our show today, saw some Giants fans saying, yeah, man, this is like your World Series. All right, fine. I think every game in the West is going to be like our World Series. I'm absolutely fine winning those divisional games. But to be honest, with Michael King and Nick Pivetta on the mound, I really expected to. And getting Luis Arraez back certainly helps, and getting Jason Hayward back certainly helps. I think it was a big relief to the other guys in the lineup too, just to know, like, hey, anytime you play a game and you get one of your better players back, that feels good, and you get a guy that can contribute defensively like Jason Hayward does, and is a veteran, immediately you feel a lift.
I think we all feel obviously much better than we did a couple of days ago. I know on Monday, Chris, we went through some of the numbers you had posted on X about the 11-game stretch in which the Padres really struggled offensively, coincided with the injury. So I'll start with the first official question, and I'll start with you, Chris. Now that they've emerged from their 2-week slump, what lesson, any takeaways do we have from that stretch of the season that you take kind of going forward as, okay, keep your eye out for this the rest of the way?
With all the analytics that are out there and the statistics and the websites that you can go to, it still seems to come down to how they hit with runners in scoring position. And I looked at something last night and this morning. In their 19 wins this year, they're hitting .302, which is pretty good. In their 11 losses with runners in scoring position, 127. It's almost a 200-point difference. And I don't know how you can control that category necessarily. I mean, people talk about, is there clutch, such a thing? But when they're hitting with runners in scoring position, they're going to win. And they got 9 for 17 against the Giants, and they won.
It's probably there's probably the strongest correlation for every team between hitting with runners in scoring position and winning. Now, I'm sure there's a few teams that just don't get enough runners in scoring position, but that's got to be the biggest thing. Braden, you have any takeaways from the struggling section of the year for the Padres that we need to keep in mind?
In terms of like things you have to worry about bad or just
anything.
Obviously the depth is a little bit of a concern, but it's only a concern if you have to have the amount of players that were playing in the lineup play in the lineup in August. I think I talked about it. Is it the last roundtable, the roundtable before? This is a good opportunity to see what you have in the bench, and you get to see like, okay, well, here's Gavin. This is what Gavin Sheets looks like playing every single day. This is what Oscar Gonzalez looks like getting everyday reps. And I think you saw some players that can definitely play with this team and be able to contribute in some sort of way, not starting. And I think you saw some players get exposed in having to play every single day. And there's kind of players in between that are probably can help the team off the bench, but we shouldn't be playing them every single day. And the other takeaway I had was how much of an asset Tyler Wade is to this team. And what a great job he has done to fill in. I mean, questions were in center field. What are we going to do in center field? He did a great job playing center field and then did a great job at the plate. Aside from his first day where he had a two-pitch strikeout, which obviously you can't have, he's been very serviceable. And you could tell in the clubhouse, those guys obviously love having Tyler Wade a part of the team. So I would say unsung hero. And when players start to come back, it ain't going to be Tyler Wade getting sent somewhere else, I don't think.
I was going to bring up Tyler Wade as well, and we talked about it on our show this week. The Padres came dangerously close to losing Tyler Wade because they had to DFA him off the roster just so they could keep Yuli Gurriel. And the Yuli Gurriel experiment now is over. I mean, had he not hit over 300 in spring training with a home run, probably would have never started in the first place. But in terms of mistakes that A.J. Preller made, that was actually potentially a big one. To get caught up in, hey, he had a good offseason, he had a good spring, when you ignored the numbers the last 2 years of what really showed, Yuli Gurriel is not a major league hitter anymore. Luckily, they didn't lose Tyler Wade over it, and they still have him as what now seems like, I would agree with Braden, a valuable bench piece that's going to be part of this team, probably if he stays healthy for the rest of the season and into the playoffs, because he brings something to the table that the Padres just seem to need, both in the clubhouse and, on their bench. And right now he's in the starting lineup, but he'll go back to the bench, and I think Mike Schilt will be very happy to have Tyler Wade going forward. Paulie, any takeaways from the last couple of weeks?
Well, first on Tyler Wade, he was a serviceable member off the bench last year. And I feel like maybe we forgot about that, because when it came to this season, now you give guys like Yuli Gurriel and Jason Hayward these one-year contracts. The veterans are going to have the upper hand. I understand that. But he was like, Tyler Wade's not doing anything over the last couple of weeks that he wasn't doing last year as well. So I don't know that we should be all that surprised. He's a talented guy that can come off the bench and help you when needed. As for the slump for the Padres, I view it pretty simple. And it's the only thing I took away was gotta stay healthy, gotta get healthy, and then gotta stay healthy. And I know that's a simple answer, but I kind of viewed their slump with a little bit more simplicity, I think, than some fans, at least. I know some fans were like, I'm not really worried at all. Some fans thought the season was going down the drain. It's more like, bro, not a lot of teams can handle losing a third of your lineup, and all three of those guys being in the top 2/3 of your lineup, right? Like top 1 through 6. You lose half of those guys, you're going to be in some trouble. Padres just had to weather the storm. They're getting some health back. If I thought it was anything seriously, like they cannot win a game while Jackson Merrill is on the IL, then Jackson Merrill deserves a $1 billion contract. He's the most valuable player in history of baseball.
Well, it's so hard to define what is pressing, but it definitely felt like for the first time, maybe we saw Tatis pressing. Is it swinging at more pitches out of the zone? Is it trying to lift balls and hit home runs? But I thought for the first time, at least when the Padres are struggling, especially with the Rays series, that we saw a little bit of pressing there. It's easy to say, it's hard to do. When the team is struggling, feels like the last thing the Padres should start doing is pressing. Now, it's human nature. You start losing, you want to try to do more, you want to try harder, but this team plays its best when they play within themselves. And somehow they got back to it against the Giants the last couple of days.
A couple different sports you can't do it in, man. Baseball and golf. The harder you swing, the worse it's going to be. You have to continue to try to grind out good ABs. And I mean, Fernando, for his pressing, I think he still hit like 500. I mean, he was unbelievable. So if he's pressing, I shudder to think what he's doing when he's relaxed. I think there's some guys that obviously you want to try to do too much every time. It's the nature of the beast. We got to rise up. We got to put the team on our back. It's just not really that sport. It's the less you do, the better you will be. Does that make sense? And any time that you're grinding, you always hear guys going to the cage and hitting 300 balls off the tee, and it's like, man, I don't know. I mean, if it works for you, great, but I think that's few and far between. And it just lengthening the lineup has helped this team so much, and hopefully we'll get a little bit more length with Jackson coming back in Pittsburgh and Crony eventually too. And then you look, and those bench guys don't have to play every day. The guys that, let's be honest, they're not as talented. That's why they're not starting. So use their talents, what they're good at, play to their strengths. Mike Schilt does a pretty good job with that. But all these guys were forced into action and having to be everyday players, and they're not.
Yeah, I know we talked about it on our show. I heard Braden bring it up on his show as well. It was the Substack from Letters to AJ. We all, I think, read some of his stuff. And the fact that the lineup, it wasn't simply missing the star players like Jackson Merrill and Jake Cronenworth, and whatever Jason Hayward was bringing, but it was the fact that they were now putting their backup players in roles that they weren't designed for, having Gavin Sheets have to face lefties, having guys hit in places in the lineup that they shouldn't be hitting. It really also changed the guys who were performing well and turned them into negative value players as well. because of the injuries and the lack of depth that was kind of exposed a little bit. Now, it's our 97.3 The Fan Padres Roundtable, brought to you by San Diego Roundtable Pizza. It's pizza royalty. This clearly is a question I wrote before Elias Diaz homered yesterday, but I think it is still valid. I think before the game or the day before, Mike Schilt was asked a question about offensive production from the catching position. And he essentially said, don't really care. All I care about is, and he didn't even go defense on catching, simply about handling the pitching staff. The only thing he really wants them to be able to do is handle those 13 guys, the starters and the relievers. But my question is really, what extent do you agree with that philosophy? Matt, do you really not need offense from your catchers or even defense from your catchers as long as they are doing a good job handling your pitching staff?
I've been thinking a lot about this because people are complaining about the catcher position, but it's one of those things that we've known this was the deal since day one. I don't understand why people are freaking out that they're not hitting. One's
underperforming.
No one's underperforming. This is exactly what we thought they were going to do. And if they can get, what is it, Maldonado hitting over 200, that's better than I thought he was going to hit through 1 month into the season.
Better than they thought, too. They said, as long as he hits 200, we're okay.
Yeah, exactly. So do you need a catcher that hits? I mean, it's nice, but as we've said on the roundtable many times this year already, that position is a unicorn, a good catcher who can hit. It just doesn't come around. So I think we need to take it a little bit easy on our catchers and just hope that they play good defense and run into one every once in a while.
And hope that we continue to pitch well, because we said it on the show yesterday. I mean, you have to give them credit. You absolutely have to. If the pitching is doing so well, and they are, by and large, they're the best bullpen, really good starting rotation. The catchers deserve no credit for that? I don't think so. Chris, you were a pitcher. How important was your catcher? Probably pretty important to you. And the way that
did they handle you well?
No, I was nobody could handle me.
Right.
It was too slow.
I think you guys are all aware of that.
I mean,
no, you're absolutely right. I didn't care if my catcher ever got a hit.
Ever.
I just wanted somebody I felt comfortable with.
Yeah.
But having said that, I brought this up a couple of times this week because I think it was getting very close, or is getting very close to the time where you give Luis Campusano a month. There is no guarantee that he's going to come up here and all of a sudden
behind the dish, though.
Right, playing cat. Well, I'm just saying, there's no guarantee that he comes up, shows he's hopefully improved, and the pitching is going to go south. We don't know that. We also don't know that he's going to come up and hit better than what they have.
I think he had a pretty decent
he's got a
ERA last year.
He's got a 1,000 OPS right now. I know it's AAA. I can't deal with an automatic out in my lineup, and I couldn't deal with it at all when they had all the injuries surrounding those guys. It's a little easier to handle when everybody's healthy. But I don't see why, unless Luis Campusano is just so bad that he can't, then if that's the case, then maybe trade him away and move on. Bring somebody in that you're happy with.
How much are you worried about defense, though? Because I think that's the big thing with Luis Campusano.
Martin Maldonado has had a few pass balls and kicked the ball. He has not been Johnny Bench back there. Yeah. He's past his prime as a defensive catcher.
But he's handling those pitchers that have led to a number one ERA.
Which is really hard to quantify, isn't it? Because if Michael King and Nick Pivetta weren't pitching this well, the catchers wouldn't be getting so much credit.
But Schilte, like Ben said, that's it for him. I mean, that's all he cares about. And
how can we quantify that? We don't know what he's actually looking for.
But he does.
And Braden, I think Luis Campusano is a mystery. I understand that they may not trust him behind the plate, but you had Mason McCoy with 4 bent fingers still on your roster, and you won't bring up Luis Campusano at least to be a pinch hitter, a right-handed hitter off the bench, a designated hitter occasionally. I don't care if he never catches. How is a guy who has over 1,000, 6 home runs in the minor leagues, now hit a home run off Clayton Kershaw on a rehab assignment. He is mashing the ball. And you don't think he has some place on a team that really has no offense from the last 4 or 5 guys on the roster right now? What's going on with Campy? That's a mystery.
Well, I think, I think that says a lot about Campusano and other facets, obviously. I mean, if he's doing so well down in AAA and he's hitting the ball so well and you're getting absolutely no production out of your catching position, yet they still continue to not bring him up, what's the underlying situation that you don't see on a stat sheet that maybe involves clubhouse or maybe a disagreement on something? I mean, I think it tells you more about Luis Campusano than anything else. But as Chris mentioned, if that was a severe case, then why is he still part of the organization. I think, for Campusano, it just seems like from at least the last couple of years, not a lot of pitchers like throwing to him compared to the other ones. It doesn't really sound like Luis Campusano is one of those guys that fits the mold of what Mike Schilt wants in a catcher. And if your manager doesn't want his type of play as a catching position, then I think it's kind of hard to try to fit him into the team just because he's hitting really well in El Paso. But that being said, like you mentioned with Mason McCoy being like banged up, guys, Edward Scissorhands over there, you would think they would bring up Campusano at least to be a DH rep during this injury-prone time. So to me, the fact that they didn't bring him up during the last week and a half when they had the El Paso Chihuahuas and then Bogarts, Machado, and Tatis, I think is a very glaring sense of what they think about Luis Campusano.
And to be clear, has anyone here heard anything like bad about Luis Campusano? I have not. And I've
heard grumblings that he gives off a lazy vibe. That doesn't mean that people
grumble sometimes.
I think I've heard that a little in the organization, but I don't necessarily think he's lazy. I think he's worked his butt off to try to be a better catcher. He's only going to be as good as he can be. He's not going to be Benito Santiago defensively. Where do you go ahead?
No, I'm sorry.
No,
I'm not trying to ignore you. I'm not
this.
trying to ignore you. I promise that.
Go ahead.
We're missing something though, because in 2022, when they went to the playoffs, he didn't make an appearance once, and
that was with a different manager too.
And that was with a different manager. That was and they had Austin Nola at the time. So
talking about Alfaro.
I am talking
You
about
are talking about
Alfaro.
Alfaro, yeah.
All right. Well, that was not worth me interrupting Chris for, so I'm sorry.
I didn't
about
mean to
that.
interrupt you.
No. You should have.
I
You should have.
I was like, I don't remember that.
And Paulie, you and Woods and I were talking about an interesting comparison during our show, and that was with Adrian Morejon, who has been in the organization even longer than Luis Campusano, was thought of at times as perhaps a bust and was not going to reach his potential. And the Padres remained patient with him, and now finally, Adrian Morejon has turned into a very productive member of the team. Is it possible that Luis Campusano still has that in his future? He's just like some guys taking a little bit longer to get there than others.
Yeah, of course, anything's possible. I don't know that it's a great comparison in the sense that it feels like, without looking at the numbers, Morejon got a lot of chances, but he got chances to figure it out at the big league level. Now, Campy's had those opportunities too, but when you send a position player down to AAA, it's a lot more beneficial with those stadiums and the ball flight and everything. Like, you can get some good numbers going at the dish offensively, whereas it's kind of a nightmare for pitchers to go throw in the PCL. I think for me, honestly, I'm at the point where the best case scenario for Luis Campusano and for the organization is probably going to be he rakes at AAA for another 2 weeks, and you look at maybe moving him. Maybe a team says, "Ooh, there's something there. We can fix this. We can work with that." I think that's probably the best outcome of all of it, because I think the Padres are pretty set with Maldonado and Diaz behind the plate for this year. The Ethan Salas experience is coming to Petco Park soon, not this year. Honestly, maybe next year. Who knows? Depending on what happens, who they sign in the offseason, a veteran on a 1-year deal or something like that. But they're really just trying to bridge the gap until Ethan Salas is your everyday starter. Now, we don't know. He could completely not meet our expectations when that day comes. Still a long time to go before that. But he's going to get his opportunity, and he's going to get his opportunity sooner rather than later.
He's your unicorn right there. That's what you're waiting for. I mean, because you can't find those guys on the open market. Everybody that has one of those catchers has them locked up for a long time and is not parting ways with them. So you're just going to have to wait for Ethan Salas to come about if you want to get, I think, production and a defensive glove. And it sounds like from some of the scouts, it's just they're waiting for his bat to come around because they're really pleased with what he's doing defensively behind the plate.
Well, we said it this week too, Benny. Like, his glove plays this weekend at PNC Park. He could go back and catch. And now, how comfortable is Michael King and Dylan Cease going to be throwing to Ethan Salas? Watch him play. Watch how he handles himself behind the dish. Watch how he throws guys out. Watch all of those things that are important. He's not hitting and hasn't hit at all. So, that he's hurt right now. He's on the IL right now. But if defensively in a year, he's gotten better, and the hitting is still coming around. What are you missing? You have that in the guys you have now. They're just 15 years older than Ethan Sal. A younger version of what you have now and better.
Well, and it's also just the way the game is today. Like Skraby was saying a few minutes ago, like they are so few and far between that you can have an elite defensive catcher that also rakes at the plate. Those are just so few and far between. The game has changed, and if the coaching staff, if Mike Schilt is happy with how they handle the pitching staff, how do they do defensively? If Ethan Salas comes up and he's an all-star defensively and he's hitting 215, 220, that's pretty run-of-the-mill right now in baseball at the catcher position. We watched Austin Hedges for like 6 years here, okay? Like
he still makes $4 million a year.
Exactly my point. Exactly my point.
I just want to finish this, or maybe we're not finished, but my bow on the Luis Camposano is that I made the worst prediction of all time in the offseason.
Oh, no.
And I predicted he'd be on the All-Star team. But I didn't say which All-Star team.
Right. Hey, true.
Could very well make the PCL All-Star team.
You're not wrong.
So I just want to...
Probably the front runner right now.
Yeah, right. I want to clear that up.
And just to add one last thing is we often forget as fans, the logistics of running a baseball team requires that you have a dozen catchers in the minor leagues at different levels. You can't simply trade them all away. You have to have bodies down there.
Yep.
And they already traded Brett Sullivan to get Bryce Johnson back because they didn't have enough bodies in the minor leagues in the outfield to get
You never
him
saw
back.
Bryce Johnson
He
out
still
there.
has a pulse, right?
I think he's there. I think he's there simply because they needed someone to play outfield at AAA.
Exactly,
At this point, and you need people to catch at AAA with Ethan Salas out. You have Brandon Valenzuela. Couldn't name you another catcher in the organization beyond those guys right now. You need bodies in the minor leagues. What they really think of Luis Camposano, though, remains a bit of a mystery in the Padres organization. All right, while we're talking about the minor leagues, huge week for Leodalis DeVries, who is killing it right now in high single A at Fort Wayne in the Midwest League. He's the youngest player in that league by far. He leads the league in OPS and slugging. I don't see him coming up to the Padres anytime soon, so I'm not going to put that on the table, but let me start with Matt down on the end. How would you map out this 18-year-old's future if you were A.J. Preller and the San Diego Padres based on what you've seen so far?
That is a great question. By the way, my favorite DM is, when are they going to bring up DeVries? And my response is 2027 because he needs time. Don't just force him into the major leagues because he's tearing up high A. And since I didn't play professional baseball, I have to go off of what the experts say, Tony, and he says high A is much different than the major league. So let's see. I would map it out like this. If he continues to improve, you just have him go through the progressions that are normal and natural. Go to AA, go to AAA, and then go to the major leagues, because we saw C.J. Abrams. He got brought up a little too early, and then they had to send him back down when the Padres, I think it was that the 2022 season? Yes, because that was the Juan Soto year. But I would just map it out in a normal way. Don't shoehorn him into the major league roster when you don't need it. Let him develop. He's 18. Kyle Glazer told us last week, he's 18. He has plenty of time to produce for the Padres.
Braden, we've seen the Padres be very aggressive, though, with a 19-year-old Jackson Merrill, 20-year-old Jackson Merrill, promoting him, getting him to the major leagues. How would you handle DeVries in the minors?
How I would handle him is a lot different than how the Padres would handle him. Now, how I think the Padres might handle him, I would not be surprised, and maybe this is a bold prediction, I would not be surprised as soon as he goes to AA, which might be sooner rather than later, if he hits for a consistent period of time, whether it be a couple of weeks or whatever it is, over 280 in AA, I would not be surprised if he is up with the big league club as soon as possible, if he can achieve that feat. It sounds like they have high expectations for him, and the way the Padres like to push players through the organization, it would not be shocking to me. The way that they handled Jackson Merrill, I would not pull him up this year at all and let him play out an entire season. But you know what? The way things are going for organizations, this is what you're going to see. I think it fits the mold a little bit for your contracts to have this guy up and kind of offset some of the play of some of your big league guys that are making a lot of money. But for DeVries, I read a report today. Kylie McDaniel put out his minor league rankings for everybody. The Padres got 26th best farm system in baseball. But he said about DeVries, he said, not only is he the same age of every high schooler coming out into the draft this year, he would be the number one pick, and he said it wouldn't even be particularly close. He would be that great of a player in this year's draft. And so the Padres have a phenom in their possession coming up through the ranks. So my prediction is as soon as he hits a clip where he's consistently hitting 280 in Double-A, I think he's up on the major league team as quickly as possible.
I don't know about that, Woods. We talked about it this week. I wouldn't be surprised if the Padres promoted him aggressively to Double-A because I think they like to see what those guys can do against. And there's quite a bit better pitching, from what I understand, at Double-A, even compared to high A ball. You've got guys who are almost major league ready for teams pitching at Double-A. So I wouldn't be surprised if they saw it. I would be shocked if Leo DeVries got up to the big leagues, mostly because the Padres are a contender. And if they were out of it, yeah, he might be a fun sideshow in August and September. Bring him up, sell some tickets, give the fans a look at this kid, give him a taste of the big leagues. What can we do? What's going to hurt him? He's not at 18 years old. He's not going to be able to jump into the heat of a pennant race later this year and be expected to contribute in any meaningful way.
No, it's got the greatest nickname though. El Mutante is
a great nickname.
Perfect nickname, the Mutant. I really, really love watching his little highlight reels. What you don't see is the low light reels, right? You only see the good stuff, and he's kicked it around a little bit, as shortstops tend to do when they're in single A. That will need to be cleaned up, but he will be the guy, in my opinion, that moves Xander Bogaerts to second or first eventually. I do think he is a cornerstone of the future of this team for sure. He is, from what I understand, brimming with confidence, brimming with ability. Can he keep his head straight? Can he keep doing the work and advancing at the next level and improving his game? If he does, the ceiling for him is limitless. It's like he's got that kind of Lindor thing that Francisco Lindor has. He just has the look. He's got the look, and he certainly has the talent. I would say Skraby's probably right by 27. But again, the road of prospects is littered with failure. There have been so many can't miss guys that have missed, and my gut tells me it won't. But man, I've seen it before, so I'm cautiously optimistic. But keep winning, at single A, and then try to win at double A, and then you get the call up, and now it's the next level, the ultimate level for Leo. But I love the kid, man. I think he's really special.
Chris, he's mature, well above his years too. On top of that,
Chris, you're always good at not getting ahead of things. I think you have a good perspective sometimes, but
you also hate prospects.
Well, I don't.
Who are you guys talking about?
Some guy that Chris wants to trade at the deadline.
I don't think it would be a surprise the way he's hitting right now, given his age, advanced level already. And his other guys are promoted in the big leagues, that Leo could be number one on prospect lists by the end of this year, like around Major League Baseball. He could be the number one overall prospect in the big leagues.
Well, it's Ethan Holiday right now, so it's going to be hard to push any of those Holiday boys out of the prospect.
Let's look at this a little bit from just a different perspective for fun. And I think Braden kind of touched on this and got me heading in this direction. I am old school. But I remember Robin Yount. He was a shortstop in the major leagues at 18. I imagine it went rough for him. I don't remember. He ended up in the Hall of Fame. It worked out okay in the end for Robin Yount. Now it's been a while. I understand that we treat all these young people with kid gloves now. And the notion is if they come up and fail, we'll have to send them back, and their confidence will be ruined and shot forever. Well, isn't that changing a little bit? In the NFL, kids come out of college, they go right into the starting lineup as quarterbacks. That never used to happen before. Phillip Rivers, Patrick Mahomes, they all sat behind people. What is the harm in bringing this guy up? And you say in the middle of a race, yeah, maybe he's too young to know any better. Maybe he has a little beginner's luck. It takes them a while to figure him out rather than him having to figure them out. I don't think it's beyond the realm of possibility to give it a shot. And if it doesn't work, Send him back to the minor leagues. Jackson Holiday went back down last year. He's come back this year. He's much improved. I just don't – we're so careful. And I don't know that we always have to be that careful. I'm just throwing out a little different perspective on it.
All right, it's our 97.3 The Fan Padres Roundtable. It is brought to you by San Diego Roundtable Pizza. It really is pizza royalty. And as we hit the halfway mark, it is time for our Roundtable draft. And a question that we actually brought up on our show today with the Giants in town, I thought it was kind of relevant. I think we all agree, as a Padres fan base, Dodgers are our number one most hated team, biggest rival for the San Diego Padres. So, as we do our draft today, and we're going to go in reverse last name alphabetical order. So it's Woods, Surprenant, Skraby, Reindl, Higgins, Ello. After the Dodgers.
I think you've gone in this order
Have
before.
I done it before?
No, I don't know.
No, not in last name.
All right.
I think it was age.
After the
Oh,
Dodgers.
that was age. I went last on that one,
That's
too.
right.
Yeah.
After the Dodgers, which team should Padres fans either consider the biggest rival or just dislike the most beyond the Los Angeles Dodgers?
Not what we think.
Woods, we heard your answer on our show today, so I'll let you go first. You've got it. The floor to take your hated team in purple if you want.
Yeah, the Colorado Rockies, man. The Colorado Rockies, multitude of reasons. They're just a thorn in this team's side, and we got to go play in Denver next week. Not looking forward to that even a little bit. I see too much of them. I know it's balanced, like Paulie said, but I feel like we play them 50 times a year. They really play their best baseball. I know they didn't earlier, but they really feels like they play their best baseball against the Padres. And you really want to win every one of those games against those guys. So for me, it's the Rockies. I hate them, and I hope they.
The joke going around this year is that this year's version of the Rockies is much like Matt Holliday.
They also don't.
They never touch home plate.
Yeah. Haven't against the Padres yet in 3 games this season. Braden, all right, Rockies are off the board. Who's the number 2 disliked rival for San Diego Padres fans beyond the Dodgers?
Okay, so for the Padres fans, not just for my personal hatred.
No, you're personal.
I personally hate the Cubs, but I wouldn't add them on those lists.
I don't know. I thought that was not a bad answer.
I think it's the easy path to take the division. Other division teams. I'm going with the Phillies.
Okay.
Because I don't know, maybe during my lifetime, it's been like I feel like the Padres never beat the Phillies. I feel when we go to Citizens Bank Park, it is a nightmare situation. I think back to the 2010 season where the Padres lost 10 straight games in August and ended up losing the division lead and then eventually losing out to the Giants for the final spot in the playoffs that led to the Giants winning 3 out of the 6 World Series or 3 World Series in 6 years, and which started with a 4-game sweep at home to the Philadelphia Phillies. I don't know why we can't beat that team, but that team drives me insane, and you're going to have to deal with the Phillies at some point in time, I think, this season. So I'm going with Philadelphia as a team Padres fan should hate.
I do think a little playoff history helps with a rivalry, and the Padres do have playoff experience with the Philadelphia Phillies. Matt Skraby, you're next up in our draft. Who's the number 2 rival to the Padres?
I want to say Giants, but I'm not going to say Giants. I'm going to say this is going to be
you're from the Bay Area?
Well, yeah. I mean, I grew up going to Giants games, but you know what? I'll just say Giants because I'm going to trash the Giants fans for a second.
Nice.
They are being on this side of things. They are really annoying. And they say worse.
That's what I said this morning.
Similar to 49er fans, I would say.
It's not even the team. I don't like the fans.
Dude, apparently we had a World Series this week. I didn't realize. Missed it.
That is what, when Wood said that earlier, I was like, did Giants fans really say that?
Yeah, I saw that.
Like, that is a dumb comment. And I know a lot of Giants fans. I talk to them all the time. They respect the Padres. They're not those people. But the Giants fans online, they are brutal, almost as brutal as Dodgers fans on Twitter. So I will stay in the division and go Giants.
I think, back in like the 2000s with Barry Bonds and Jeff Kent, the Giants were easy to hate. Harder to hate with Boch and Flan up there, even when they were winning World Series.
Now were beating them when they were winning the World Series.
They did. But now it's like, I don't even, like the players on their team, they're not likable. They're not hateable. They're just
kind of there.
They're players.
I actually like
Chapman?
I love Matt Chapman, dude.
Yeah,
seriously.
exist on their
I like
team
Willie
for the
Adamas.
most
I
part.
like Jung Ho Lee.
They used
Like,
to have guys like Madison Bumgarner you get upset about, but it's like, oh yeah, these guys are kind of cool.
Yeah,
those guys.
I'm having trouble forming an opinion on the Giants, other than they look decent.
Ryan Walker's a
So
Washington
far this
State Cougar.
season. So I don't know. Paulie, who was your pick for the second
We saved you the Mariners, bud.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
natural rival.
I said it this morning on the show. I think it's kind of a silly question because I think it's just so manufactured in that anybody other than the Dodgers is the wrong answer.
or everybody. Like anybody we're playing. Like,
Right.
That's
exactly.
who I hate.
Same
that
idea.
week.
We hate the Dodgers. We hate their fans. Their fans hate us. It is reciprocal. We are rivals geographically in the division and on the field. It gets chippy when those two teams face. And I think that's, to me, when I hear the word rivalry, I think chippiness.
Yeah.
And I think intensity on the field. The games are just, you are locked in. I don't feel that with the Giants. I don't feel it with the Diamondbacks. I don't feel it with the Cubs, the Phillies, the Braves. I'll just go, it's probably recency bias, but again, it's kind of a throwaway answer here. I'll say the Washington Nationals because we've had so many weird games with weird moments on the field, by the way, over the last couple of years where I'm like, it's kind of like, who do they think they are?
Careful.
That's a great one. That's a great one.
It's a good one.
You know, you could just say whatever team Jesse Winker's on.
That's true.
The Mets.
Give a similar answer.
New York Mets.
But like, the Diamondbacks, like we don't get, there's no bench clearing brawls or guys yapping at each other really, even though it's within the division. Every divisional opponent is equally as important to win. So for the rivalry, I guess I'll just throw out the Nationals.
They've been some good ones, man.
All right, I've got the second to last.
You get the history with the trade. They're always going to link those two teams together
James
now
Wood,
with the Juan Soto trade. So I'll go with the
I've got the second to last pick, and I talked about the Cubs, as Braden brought up during the show today. But since they haven't been selected, despite what Paulie said, I think the Diamondbacks are pretty easy to hate sometimes, especially because there's so many Arizonans who just come here all summer long and bring just this random Diamondbacksiness, to San Diego during the summers.
Especially Interstate 8 over here going to the beach.
I hate that they have a World Series that they can hold over our heads. Like, really? You got one that fast? Yep. We've been waiting for close to 60 years now to try to win one, and you got one in season number 1, 2, 3, 4. You got one in your 4th season. That's just annoying.
You've been there twice since we've been
Bob
there.
Brenly still works for that team in the broadcast booth, and he's definitely one of the least.
It's tough because you're looking at a bigger sample size, but I'm looking at the team today, and I'm like, Corbin Carroll's pretty likable. Zach Gallen, I don't hate him.
I like Torey Lavulo. Ben's onto this though because every team lines up to hate the Diamondbacks. Yeah. And Brenly is in the broadcast booth, but it seems like he's still on the field ordering pitchers to throw at hitters and whining about the fact that Ben Davis laid down a bunt. It'll never go away.
Snot and Storcher ripping on the Padres on Phoenix Radio or whatever their show is called. So I honestly do think that the Diamondbacks are probably the number 2 after the Dodgers, at least for me, as Padres rival / team for the fan base to hate.
I give Ben an A grade for his draft.
Good job, Ben. It's good. When you have a late pick, it's hard to get a high grade, but I stole one.
Yeah, I don't. There's nobody left, so I will have to take. Since I'm not stealing anyone at this point. No, the Angels are. I have to call it a tie between the '84 Tigers and the '98 Yankees.
Yankees. I brought up the Yankees today.
They took our World Series from us. They were great teams. There's nothing left to choose, honestly.
I think the Yankees can be every team's other. It's Dodgers and Yankees. I mean, if you're an American League team, you hate the Yankees, and if you're a National League team, you hate the Dodgers, and might as well have a little crossover as well. Padres are heading, of course, to the Bronx on this road trip and making that, every other year visit to face a New York team that doesn't. I mean, Aaron Judge is, very likable, right?
He's so likable that Michael King said yesterday, it's going to be hard for me to not giggle against all the players I'm playing against. And they asked him, well, which player is going to make you laugh the most? He said, oh, definitely Aaron Judge. Yeah. I'm going to try to keep a straight face with Judge. And then he said, if Rizzo was still on the team, it'd be Rizzo, but probably Judge.
All right. It's our 97.3 The Fan Padres Roundtable, brought to you by San Diego Roundtable Pizza. It really is pizza royalty. And talking about the upcoming road trip for the Padres, longest one of the season so far. 3 cities, 10 days, 9 games. Now, two are against two of the three worst records in the league right now, the Pirates and the Rockies. And then you got the best record, I believe, in the American League right in the middle with the New York Yankees. So I will start in the middle with Paul. What would you consider a successful upcoming road trip for the San Diego Padres? What are you looking for here?
I'm doing math really quick in my head, which is not my strong suit.
Do math on the air.
I think you 5-5, honestly, and I know
Not
it's
only
too many
9
games,
but
Too many games.
5-5 would be a miracle.
5-4.
Get you guys out of the segments on time.
All right, 5-4. I'll take 5-4. I told you, I'm not. I literally said math is not my strong suit.
It might be the worst.
Bad
Did
idea.
warn us.
Bad idea.
I just told you. No, I mean, without looking at pitching matchups and how it all is going to play out. I mean, I think if you can win 1 out of 3 in New York, you're feeling pretty good. And then you got 6 games against the Pirates and the Rockies. I mean, anything less than 4-2 would be unacceptable.
All right. Padres have struggled on the road, though, Woods.
Yeah.
So far this season, they've definitely not played their best ball away from Petco Park. Is just a winning record, even by 1 game, good enough for you?
I mean, I got to stick with that. It's been kind of the mantra, play really well at home and 500-ish on the road. I don't know, man. Against 6 games against a couple of teams that you should handle 2 out of 3. Yeah, I would go a little bit higher. I would say more of a 6-3 would be pretty rad if they could get home with that. You can't come home with a losing road trip though with those teams. You can't.
I know you
missing Paul Skeens again. By the way,
you're missing
Skeens. Yeah, great.
What are the odds that in 2 seasons you miss a starting pitcher over the course of
3 straight series,
12 games?
I mean, I don't know if they'll get him the last one, but 3. They was all 6 last year. They missed him, and now the first 3 this year.
The Tarek Skubal this year. Catching a few breaks on these.
But I know, Chris, you can never expect a sweep, especially on the road. That's asking a lot. But one of Pittsburgh or Colorado, maybe you get all 3, get 2 in the other place, and then hopefully grab 1 against the Yankees. That gets you to 6-3 right there. That would be a solid road trip if you can do it.
Yeah, the Rockies have played 10 series this year. They've been swept 5 times.
Wow.
So I think the Padres should and can sweep them despite what history says.
It's a 50% sweep rate.
Yeah, thank you, Scraby.
I
could go for confirmation to Paul on that math question, but
I'm just happy I have my bad math brother over here.
So, I mean, the Rockies are so sweepable this year that I think you can think sweep. And you go 3-3. That would give me 6-3. That would bring them home 11-10 on the road, and I'd be much happier and feel more content. So I want 6-3.
And Braden, of course, we're anticipating that the Padres will get Jackson Merrill and Brandon Lockridge back early on in this trip. With Jackson Merrill and Luis Arraez in the lineup, the Padres have looked really, really good so far this year. That's got to be added into the equation for this trip as well.
Yeah, it does. I'm going to go with what Paul said at 5-4, and maybe it's just recency bias for the last couple of years. I just feel like the Padres struggle at PNC Park. I mean, for some reason, the Pirates get the better of them there, but they're just not playing really good baseball. So you hope to take 2 out of 3 from Pittsburgh, and you hope to take 2 out of 3 from the Rockies. I think asking for a sweep, even as bad as the Rockies are, is always tough to ask of your team, especially on the road. So I got about 5-4. You go 1-2 against the Yankees. You go 2 out of 3 against Pittsburgh. 2 out of 3 against Colorado. I would consider that a successful road trip. I would love 6-3. I would love more than that. But if they come back 5-4, I'm not going to be freaking out, if that makes sense.
I agree with you that it's hard to go into a series and say we need a sweep, but you always take each game one at a time. And it's just hard to believe you can lose any of those games to the Rockies.
How many
at
of those,
a time? You can't win them all 3 at the same time.
How many of those? Well, I know you pay attention to the Rockies a lot, Chris. How many of those sweeps have happened at Coors?
I think they've been swept 3 times at home, or twice at home, 3 times on the road.
Okay.
They're equal opportunity so far.
Those games are always just no
They're
lead
just
is safe.
nightmares, man.
No lead
They're
is safe.
This year it's so weird though. They won finally a game yesterday, 2-1 at Coors Field.
Yeah.
They
beat Chris Sale, by the way.
They really aren't scoring.
Must have been a getaway day.
Yeah.
Getaway day.
The problem with 5-4, and Matt, I'll let you give your thoughts on the road trip as well. It feels like you're losing ground to the Dodgers now. They're hot. They've outscored their opponents by 51 the last 5 games or something like that.
They got Atlanta this weekend.
Atlanta is playing a little bit better than they were, but they're still below 500. And then they go back to Miami to face more of the Marlins. God. I mean, you go 5-4, you're probably now 4 or 5 games out of first place when you get back home to Petco Park after this road trip. They're hard to keep pace with right now, Matt.
Yes, they are. I'm going to go 6-3. For the Skraby show tonight, I'm going to do a little research and see how they've been playing at PNC Park, because I too feel like that. I remember being on a post game in 2021 when Blake Snell didn't. It was the longest 9-inning game of my life.
Yeah, it was rough.
There was like 20 walks and
It's a day game, right?
I don't.
Day game.
No, it was a night game. It was a
Sure,
night game.
I remember him throwing like
It was a day game.
116 pitches.
Yeah, game
in the
that turned
first.
into a night.
It was
game.
the Ben and Woods Open.
Okay,
Ben and Woods Open. That's right. I remember it.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah, it was brutal.
Day-night doubleheader all in one game.
But I feel like they're good enough now that they can win two games in each of these series, and then the Rockies. They've exercised the demons. I'm not worried about the Rockies anymore.
Ooh, oh, God, it's the dumbest thing you can say with a microphone in your hand. Oh my God.
That is not wood.
We all know. We all know. We all know we can blame Matt. When we come back and they went
happens all the
1-2
time
in
anyway.
Colorado. They get the Halo.
I just
gave Woods an anxiety.
That's a knock on
throw up.
Formica, I believe.
Padres will need a fifth starter at some point on this trip. Chris, how do you think they should handle it? Now they could wait until next Tuesday, but that would be against the Yankees, or they could push Nick Pivetta back to Monday and use a fifth starter on Sunday. Do they bring Kyle Hart right back, or do they go with Ryan Bergert, who's already in their pen right now and more of a bullpen day? Do you call Omar Cruz back up? What do you think the Padres are going to do now about the fifth starter that they didn't need the last trip and a half through the rotation?
Yeah, my hotline to Mike Schilt again is not working.
I have one, and he won't tell us tomorrow.
Right, I know. That's what I mean. I pick it up, but he doesn't pick up on his end. I like what you're saying about moving Pivetta back.
I do too.
And going Pivetta King in the first two games at Yankee Stadium. It makes 100%. A whole lot more sense.
Your Pivetta King cease
right.
there.
Get them all. Put them all in there. Let the lesser guys face the Pirates and the Rockies. That seems simple. But I know that Mike is probably not keen on that because he likes to keep everybody on their regular rotation. As far as who you bring up, I mean, if you're going to play in Pittsburgh on a Sunday with Kyle Hart, I would take that over a bullpen day. I just think it messes with everybody too much.
Do you want to see Kyle Hart back, Woods, right away, or are you looking at different options right now?
I don't know how he's done since he's been down. Don't know what the work, how it's looked, or if it even really matters. I think Stephen Kolek may deserve a shot at some point too. You kept him around for a reason. I really don't know. It does seem like you're in kind of need of a better fifth starter than what you have right now. I mean, look, man, you saw the Dodgers go to a couple bullpen games early, and against the Cubs, and they did it against the Marlins. It's been successful for them. Our bullpen is so good. I would hate to throw a monkey wrench into any routine that they may have established right now, but there's a few guys you haven't used in days, really. So why not give it a shot?
Well, that's what I was going to say. I go the other way. I mean, you've got such a good pen. You've had Wandy Peralta and Yuki Matsui who've performed really well, but rarely actually get into games. There's no crime in doing a bullpen day every once in a while. Get your best pitchers out on the field for a few innings. Your high leverage guys are going to come through. If you can win a game with Wandy and an inning or two of Bergert and an inning of a plus of Matsui, and get Morgan out there against the Pirates on a Sunday.
Damn.
Hey, I mean that's the best. I think that's the best possible scenario, Braden, that you could come up with if you're the Padres.
All right, so if you have if we didn't have an off day today, King would be set to pitch on Monday. Right,
yes.
That would be the
Pivetta will go Sunday. King would go Monday.
Right, with the current four-man rotation.
With the current four-man
and on regular rest.
I feel like you don't have to add the fifth guy until
Tuesday.
Colorado.
You'd have to add him on Tuesday because you have Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. Someone needs to pitch Tuesday because it can't be Randy Vasquez. It can't be Dylan Cease on 3 days rest on Tuesday.
It'd be 3 days.
He does tried that in the playoffs.
He does really well on 3 days.
We've
rest.
seen that.
Okay, so it'd have to be on
Tuesday's the latest
against
possible
the
time you'll need a fifth starter.
All right. Well, I'd rather push Pivetta back a day and throw somebody on Sunday. Like Wood said, I wouldn't be like opposed to having this now be Kolek's time to the rotation. Let Hart work in AAA, and then later, because you're going to mix all three of those guys eventually. Again, you're going to get Yu Darvish back hopefully by the end of May, maybe early part of June. And when you get to June, that is when the gauntlet starts for your opponents. So I like the Pivetta King Cease at Yankee Stadium a little
sick.
bit better. The thing is, I mean, at the end of the day, I mean, all of these opponents are relatively the same in terms of like getting wins. But like, to punt on day one with a Hart or a Kolick at Yankee Stadium and the bandbox they play in and the way they're hitting the ball out of the yard, I mean, especially with just the way Hart pitches, if he misses, that ball's not only leaving Yankee Stadium, it is leaving the Bronx.
Well, but what about Colorado? You can't throw Kyle Hart in Colorado.
Yes, you can. I think you
I'm
can
telling you.
because I'm not afraid of them. And you know what? If you let Kyle Hart die at Coors
I'm off
Field,
the hook now.
if you let Kyle Hart die at Coors Field, like, I mean,
You wouldn't be the first.
You know what, like, so what's like if you pitch Kyle Hart at Coors Field, it gives up like 8 runs in 2 innings. With the lineup the Padres have, they could get 8 runs back in the next inning with the way that
You're going
Coors
12
Field's
and 1
playing.
against that team this year, Woods.
I would rather
12 and 1.
Oh, man.
I would rather
Woods
get
is gonna get him to
into.
leave.
I would rather get into a slugfest with the Rockies at Coors Field than a slugfest with the Yankees at Yankee Stadium. So even though it's kind of maybe it's a little nostalgia thing, like let's get after the Yankees because at the end of the day it doesn't really matter. Those games don't count more than the other games do. But I think it'd be more fun for us to go after who could be your challenger in the World Series if you want to get that far in the New York Yankees and go 1-2-3 against those guys and see what you got. I think it'd be great cinema.
Also, let's give the Padres some credit because the reason they didn't go with Kyle Hart wasn't simply to get their best pitchers on the field, but they looked at a Giants lineup that was very right-handed heavy and said it just doesn't make a lot of sense for us to throw Kyle Hart against this team when we would have Michael King on more than enough rest to go in this game.
Very fly ball heavy too.
They may look at the numbers of the Pirates lineup, the Yankees lineup, the Rockies lineup, and then determine who they think is the best matchup. It may be Hart. It may be another guy from the minor leagues. It may be a bullpen day. Maybe you do it on Tuesday. Maybe you do it on Sunday. You don't hear that much about the Padres getting into the numbers like some other teams do, but they do it. They quietly
clearly did it this week.
Absolutely
They clearly
do it.
did it this week.
Unlike J.J. Redick, who obviously doesn't talk to his assistant coaches.
Oh, man, that was rough.
I do think Mike Schilt talks to his assistants and gets input from everybody.
Why would you infer that?
No 7th inning stretch today, huh?
Ran out of
I
time.
didn't actually come up with a question. I thought Chris was hosting, so it's a 7th inning stretch question today.
I never got to use mine last
We
week.
had we did
They
song.
talked right through the 7th inning
We did.
stretch.
We already did it on our show. What's your favorite opening song lyric in all of rock music?
man.
Anybody? Chris, you got one?
Todd Rundgren, "Hello, It's Me." I don't know
Hello,
why that
It's
popped
Me.
into
That's
my
a
head.
great
That was
song.
the first thing that popped in your head?
You're asking the wrong
Maddie?
guy.
No,
You're asking the
not
wrong
you.
guy.
Braden?
No.
I was the only
Well
one
done,
that came up with
everybody.
an answer. You
At
can't
least
make
you got
fun of my
one.
answer.
We did ours. Oh,
You
yours
came
was
up with
good.
one.
Yours is good.
Well, I guess it was just the fact that I don't want to work. I just want to bang on my drums like this. And I didn't come up with a 7th inning stretch question for us today. All right, Padres head to Pittsburgh, New York, the Bronx.
By the way, I think they should go with a bullpen day.
Thank you. Oh, did I not get you, Paulie?
Special guest on the roundtable.
Only the second or third
Reindl.
time. It's all good.
It's like it's
I've got thoughts on Xander Bogaerts too that you missed. If you
It's
want to go
becoming
back.
a theme.
If that's the case, you should co-host my show because that's all anybody wants to talk about on my show is Xander Bogaerts.
Paulie, you got the floor for the last 60 seconds.
All right, Paulie, take us home.
Go
the last
ahead.
minute. Here we go.
Oh, where to begin? Where to begin? No, I agree. I think just real quickly on the Kyle Hart stuff, I think Woods and Ello both kind of agreed that you kind of talked like a bullpen day is more of a pessimistic outlook. Like, what are you going to throw a wrench into the bullpen that's been doing so well? I look at it as they've done so well. Why not go with a bullpen day? That's all I have to say.
I need a sign y'all hold up that says I already answered this question or I haven't answered this question yet. You're right. It's
the
hard to
all-you-can-eat steak buffet.
Yeah,
you turn your marker over when you're
at,
done.
Fogo de
talking on
Chão,
that
your little card. I think that does it for us on this week's edition of the 97.3 The Fan Padres Roundtable is brought to you by San Diego Roundtable Pizza. It is pizza royalty. We'll all be back together next Thursday. Hopefully the Padres will be in the midst of a very successful road trip. For Matt Skraby, Stephen Woods, Paul Reindl, Braden Surprenant, and Chris Ello, I'm Ben Higgins. Have a great rest of your day from all of us here at San Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan. So long, everybody.